Good afternoon, our dear guests. My name is Irina Kravtsova. I'm the founder of Ukrainian British Lawyers Network, and also I'm the foreign qualified lawyer at Gateway Legal. I'm very happy to welcome you today at our recruitment and employment course and our first session about drafting of the CV for the lawyers. Why we have decided to start this session with this topic? Everything's very simple because the CV is an easy document by itself, but it's also a very important document and it's a very complicated document. It's the start of all employment process, that is no doubt. A CV is a short document that gives you a chance to show a prospective employer the best of what you've got. It sells your skills, experience, and shows them you're the right person for the job. Your CV should be not only without grammar mistakes, but it should also have structure. It should also have bullet points on the most important skills that you have, on your best performance. Your CV should be drafted in the way that recruiters would definitely want to call you for the meeting. It should be remarkable. They should notice it. Today we have a very special guest speaker, Sandip, Sahmbi, sorry for this, who is a careers and employability manager at BARBRI Global, and who will help us to understand how the lawyer should draft the CV in the way that he would definitely be called to the meeting. Sandip?
Thank you, Irina. So what I'll do, I'll start off by just quickly sharing my screen because I've got a few slides. So let's give this a go. Okay, so hopefully you can see my slides now. About here. And yeah, once again, thank you so much. And it was an absolutely nice introduction to what CVs are. And a big welcome to everyone joining us, whether it be on demand or right here today. So my name is Sandip. I'm the Careers and Manager here at BARBRI. And just a little bit before I get to CVs and myself, a little bit about BARBRI. So BARBRI, for those of you who don't know too much about BARBRI, has been established for over 50 years. And what they do is offer a legal education. They're headquartered in Dallas, in Texas, and in 2015 they opened up a international division, which was formed in London, that offers the extended US bar prep and a QLTS. Now, fast forward that to 2020, BARBRI began offering what we now have called the SQE prep courses. For those of you who are not too familiar with the SQE prep courses, they are the new pathway to qualifying as a solicitor in England and Wales. So the SRA, they created this pathway with the intention to make becoming a solicitor much more flexible and accessible. The old route, which many of you might be aware of, the LPC, is now being phased out. And the new route involves completing two-stage assessments, SQ1 and SQ2, and the qualifying work experience along that line. But we have another session recorded for this network, so you can watch a little bit more about the SQE in our other on-demand session. Today, we're going to be focusing on CVs. So we've got CVs for lawyers, and really focusing on how to bet your CV to, as Irina said, get into the next stages, get shortlisted. And we'll be exploring the fundamentals of creating a strong CV, thinking about and exploring the real practical guidance and advice that you can use to make your CV into a winning CV. Just a little bit about myself. So I am a careers practitioner by trade. I've got probably over 10 years experience within careers advice and guidance. In my time, I've probably sifted through hundreds of CVs over time. And all that sifting through CVs has really provided me with a sense of perspective and understanding of some of the common do's and don'ts that go along with the CV. And hopefully today I'll be able to share some of them. So I always start this when we start talking about CVs. And it says it clearly here. There's no such thing as a perfect CV. And that is such an important quote because you cannot get a perfect CV. A perfect CV just does not exist. You could probably speak to 10 different legal recruiters and get advice on different your CVs and speak to 10 different individuals and get different advices. You'll get 10 different advices. And one of the reasons is that every hiring manager is different and has a particular preference and different set of criteria of what they're looking for in terms of the role. And it's important to understand that hiring managers are human in themselves. They make decisions based on intuition, based on the information which is presented to them, and how they can interpret that piece of document to really figure out if you are the best fit or if you can be shortlisted to the next stage, which could be a phone interview or an interview. They have to make that decision, and it's based on their human decision-making process. So you won't ever achieve what's called a perfect CV. It's not possible. But what you can achieve is a CV which serves its purpose, meaning a CV which is filled with good practices, best behaviors, and that's some of the things which we're going to go through today in this webinar. And we're going to try to start to build a deeper understanding of some of these good practices and best behaviors that you can all incorporate onto your CVs. So when it comes to CVs, there's no one size fits all. If you believe you can get away with submitting the same CVs to multiple different roles without even attempting to adapt or tweak your CV, you're going to find that it's really, really difficult to get shortlisted for far more jobs than you should be getting shortlisted for. You have to take a little bit more time and effort into each application. And if you think about it, with so many different areas of law, with so many different firms and organizations, with so many different individuals with diverse range of skills, it is essential that you have to change and adapt your CV. One, to explore and express your key skills, your experiences, your unique selling points, but also to really focus on all of that into different roles. And all the roles are going to be different. You have to make sure that you have a synergy with your skills and with the roles that you're applying for. So I did mention you should not be using one CV. I did mention that. You should be using one CV for every job. But what you can do is to start to nurture a master document, which really means you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to forget all the valuable things that you've done and you've learned and you've put down on your original CV. All you need to do is focus on putting all that information together and creating a skeleton structure. And the skeleton structure really defining all your key assets, your key skills, the good things that you accomplished, things that you've done really well in, and really putting all that together. And then when you start to look at different types of roles, all you want to do is find out what the role is looking for and start to add a little bit more meat to the bone. Yeah, filling up the CV specifically to what the role is asking for. And we'll go into a little bit more detail on that. So with a CV, a lot of people ask me, well, how long should a CV be? Should it be a page, 2 pages? Can I get away with 3, 4, 5 pages worth of CV? The short answer is there's no prescribed length to a CV. The best practice to this would be thinking about what information can you bring? What information, how much information does the hiring manager want to read about you? If you are limited with your work experience, say for example, you've just graduated, you've done a little bit of roles, maybe some pro bono work in a clinic, and you've got a little bit of experience, maybe an internship, but no significant experience than that. You really shouldn't be coming up with a 3, 4, 5 page CV because the likelihood of you bringing in very focused legal experience will be very unlikely based on your experience. And on the flip side, if you've come with a lot of wealth of experience, very focused and targeted, say for example, you're trying to apply for a commercial law firm and you've got 10, 15 years of commercial law experience, then of course you can get away with a little bit longer CV. I would say anything from 1 to 2 page CV is a good average amount of CV to have in terms of quantity. But remember, it's not all about quantity, it's about quality as well. And again, we'll touch about what sort of things you could be putting on there. So the key is ensuring the CV contains all relevant information, and the information that you put onto your CV is very easy to read. The recruiters can just sift through it and read it. I've spoken to a lot of recruiters and HR practitioners and professionals, and they say on average, when they're sifting through a CV for application form, they take anything between 30 to 60 seconds to look at one CV. 30 to 60 seconds. That's looking at 2 page worth of CV or 1 page worth of CV, 60 seconds. That's not a lot of time, but they know what they're looking for and they need certain things to stand out. So that's why it's so important that the information that you provide is of relevance. Make sure you include the basics. So make sure that you have your name on top. It's clear that you have your phone number. I think we've slightly passed time by putting a landline number. It's always a mobile number now. You put down your email address and it's clear, but also include your LinkedIn profile. Encourage them to have a view of your LinkedIn profile. But at the same time, you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile in itself is up to date. If you've got gaps in your CV, again, that's a little bit of a red flag if you don't explain why you have the gap. So it's really important that you do cover the gaps and explain exactly what them gaps are for. You don't want a hiring manager to make assumptions for what the gap is for and have negative assumptions. You want to make sure that you tell them exactly what it was for. Another question we get asked is, well, do we need a personal statement or a personal profile on top of the CV? Well, that all depends. Again, it's one of those conversations where if you have the space to put a short profile, it is useful, or as long as your profile is strong, it highlights the key things. But if you don't have the space, if your CV is overloaded with lots and lots of experience, then you can get away with having no profile. But you have to make that judgment or have a conversation with somebody to kind of assess whether you should be having a personal profile or not. But we will be covering profiles in this CV session as well. So some of you are probably thinking, well, what could you do to really stand out from the crowd, to get the law firms attracted to your skills, attracted to your experiences, and shortlist you to the next stage of the application? Well, a good place to really start is by, first of all, understanding what sets a legal CV apart from a standard resume. So a legal CV not only is there to outline your qualifications, your experiences, but also there to really tailor them to specific legal fields, specific jobs you're applying for. And of course, if you have limited work experience, say for example, you just graduated from university, your work experience will be very much minimal. But it's really important that you still put it down and really delve deep into kind of explaining what experience you have and highlighting the key achievements that you've got there. But at the same time, try to think about also how you can gain a lot more experience, whether you can do some pro bono work, working in maybe a career clinic, any sort of internship opportunities, these sorts of things, just to boost your profile a little bit more. And on the flip side, if somebody's got loads of experience, a healthy amount of experience, it's crucial that you focus on experience which is more tailored to the area of law that you want to go into. For example, if you have previous experience in working in a high street firm practicing personal injuries or negligence, which is a very non-commercial law, and you want to go into commercial law, you'll probably find it extremely difficult and you'll be overlooked. So you need to make sure that the experience that you have is highlighted the best way it can to really highlight your strengths, to really highlight the area of your expertise, to give you the best chance of getting shortlisted. So the key role for a CV is the more importantly a legal CV is strong. Is strong. First impressions make a strong impression. So don't think about what you are impressed about in your own experiences. Start to think about, put yourself in the recruiter's point of view, the recruiter's shoes. See what they're really interested about knowing about you. And the key ways to do that is really delve deep into the job description and person specification. Find out and understand what they want from the candidate. What sort of duties do they want? What responsibilities are you going to be having? What expertise do they want you to bring to the table? So really hone into that and then try to emulate that into your CV. So now let's talk about structuring your legal CV and the best and most effective way of doing that. So it should include several essential sections, such as contact information, which is your name, your email address, your contact number, and of course, the most important thing, an up-to-date LinkedIn profile. Then we have personal profile, short personal profile. And we'll probably go into more detail in the next slide about personal profile. So we'll put that on the side now. After personal profile, if you are experienced and you've got work experience, your work experience should then come first. And your work experience should be structured by having your role, so the title of your role, the company that you work for, and the date to date. You don't only need to include your month and year, 2 month and year. You don't have to put the specific day that you started your job. You don't need to go into that granular detail. Then what you need to do is start listing the duties and responsibilities. And this is where a lot of people, which don't really look at their own CV, go overloaded in terms of putting lots and lots of duties and responsibilities and keep on putting more and more and more. You should be doing an audit of your CV and removing things which are duplicates, which are not relevant, and just keeping the crucial ones there. The duties and responsibilities should be bullet point, it should be snappy, should be straight to the point. Things like providing critical support to a team of senior attorneys in a high volume litigation practice. Managing caseload of 15 plus cases, ensuring timely filing of documents, tracking deadlines, and maintaining case calendars. Very specific, snappy duties and responsibilities should be there. Once you've done the work experience, then you can also have your key skills. So things like, what are your skills that you can bring to the table? It could be team collaboration, being able to legal research, caseload management, documentation analysis, and you can break that into a bit more granular level as well. And achievements and certifications, they are also key. So if in your legal practice or doing any sort of education, I know at BARBRI we have some opportunity to do certain certifications. Take these opportunities, and when you do take these opportunities, make sure you highlight these, because these are the key things which law firms want to look for. What extra things do you do? How do you build your professional development? Things like having a Westlaw certification, or what we do in BARBRI is we get our students to complete a Lexis Plus legal researcher certificate, both foundation and advanced. These are nice added things to put down your CV, which really shows your commitment towards your field of work and your understanding of what's required. So it's so important to have a clean and organized CV. And to really make it stand out, the key highlighting things is that make sure all the headers that you put there are very clear and it breaks down the rest of the information. If we're talking about font sizes, I mean, a good consistent font is size 11. If you use a standard Word to write your CV, I think Calibri is a nice font to use. Make sure there is sufficient amount of white space in and around your CV. The worst thing a recruiter can have, bearing in mind they only have about 60 to 90 seconds to look at your CV, is having a CV which is so wordy and it's just completely filled with a size 8 or 9 font size, which is hard to read. They won't give it a time of day. you could be the perfect candidate, but they won't give you the time of day. So make sure there's plenty of white spaces. Things are bullet pointed, so all the information that you're providing is short, snappy, precise, and concise. The language is easy to understand. Try to avoid using so many different acronyms. Understand who the reader is. It's not always the case where the reader will be a legal professional. It could be in the HR department, which might not have as detailed of an understanding of the particular languages and acronyms that are commonly used. So do understand the audience that your CV is going on. So I mentioned about personal profiles, and this is completely up to you if you want to add it or not. Me personally, I think it's a really effective tool. It gives a nice introduction to who you are as a person, but make sure you use it to your advantage. Some people can get lost in terms of talking about themselves as a personal profile. They could talk about some of the hobbies and interests, things they like. Try to avoid that and make it a bit more professional focused. So think about some of the legal aspirations that you have, the experience that you bring in. Everyone is an individual, and each and every one of you has a USP, your unique selling point. You will have it. So think about what your unique selling point is when we talk about professional work experience, and then align it with the job that you're applying for. And a good technique to really form a strong personal profile is to first put down the key message you want to get across. Think about how many years of experience that you have in the industry or the area of work that you work in or have worked in the past. What are some of your key skills that you bring to the table? What are some of your key experiences that you've been involved in? Have you achieved anything? What are they? Would the reader be interested? Would the recruiter be interested? And then try to sum these up and pay attention to what the role is asking for. I always find using there's some free tools. If you just Google and you can type in Google and use find a Power Word generator. And a Power Word generator is so effective. I always find sometimes when I'm trying to express and talk about myself, how can I fill in the blanks? And what Power Word Generator will do, it will give you some nice punchy words, words that you can use as fillers when you're really emphasizing certain things. As example, when you're talking about yourself in the personal profile point of view, you want to add certain things to break it down, to have more impact. So like a dedicated and results oriented paralegal with 6 years of comprehensive experience in a prominent law firm. These sort of keywords here, just fill them in there. So I'm going to move on to showcasing education and work experience. And we've kind of already touched upon this, but when it comes to education and work experience section, it's so important to highlight your experience as best you can. And the best way to do this is doing it in reverse chronological order, even with your work experience as well. So start off with the most recent job or education that you've done, so the most recent one, and then begin to work your way back. And as I mentioned, for work experience, for your jobs that you've done previously, you always put the position or the role that you did or are doing, then the company name, and then date to date. And in terms of date to date, you just need your month and year to the month and year that you're working to, or to date if you're currently working there. And that is sufficient. You don't have to go into any more detail on a particular day and time. And then start filling in with duties and responsibilities. Bullet pointed, straight to the point, what you're doing, how you've done it, what you achieved, key accomplishments, key KPIs, etc., etc. When it comes to education, highlight the relevant education that you've done from the highest going back. If you are somebody who's got very limited work experience but has done very well in terms of education, then go into more detail with that. Talk about some of the assignments, of course, that you've been doing, the extracurricular activities, maybe meeting competition, for example. Maybe you've got a special honours in a degree. Maybe you've got a special award, things like that. So you can go into a bit more detail on your education if your work experience is limited. Again, all this information is done by case by case. You want to basically see what parts of your CV have strengths and what have weaknesses or development areas. You want to highlight your strengths and maybe hide away some of the weak areas. In every CV, there are pitfalls. And what you need to do is try to avoid and challenge and challenging these. So we'll discuss some common mistakes, like including irrelevant information. And it's so important that we make sure, and we touched upon this, try not to make your CV overly wordy. And it's so helpful to get somebody else's point of view, another opinion, to make sure that you proofread your CV. I don't know how many times that has happened to myself, where you've created a document, you've read over it once, twice, but then you've given it to somebody else and it's brought one or two mistakes. You have muscle memory. So when you're reading through, you will probably end up missing the same mistake over and over and over again. So what is nice to give somebody else a fresh pair of eyes. And if you have the opportunity, go to a careers practitioner or a maybe HR or hiring manager, get them to have a look at your CV. Just to kind of fill in some areas where you can improve in. And again, we mentioned this, addressing CV gaps. It's so important to address gaps that you might have in your work experience. The worst thing that can happen is allowing the hiring managers to make assumptions of why you've had an extended extended leave.
Didn't improve his embryo.
So, a couple of top tips on CVs. So important is always quality, not quantity. It's such an important thing. Make sure that don't force yourself to have a CV which exceeds 1 page or 2 page. Don't try to do that. Focus on what you want the reader to read, what the recruit manager want them to read. Focus on the quality. Start building that skeleton structure. Start finding out what the key parts of your work experience, what you did, what education you wanted to put, what accomplishments you want the reader to read. Do your research as well. Again, the CV is like a key to unlocking your next step. You want to understand what the right key is. So to do that, you need to understand what role you're applying for, what company you're applying for, what the values are of that company, what the ethos is, what are they involved in at the moment, what do they progress to do in the next 5 to 10 years. Put yourself in their shoes because they want a particular individual and you need to make sure that you are that particular individual. So mold yourself to be adaptable and relatable to that particular company. So build that commercial knowledge, understand them, read the blogs, read their news articles, go onto their website, find out what's happening with them in social media, find out what projects they're currently involved in, where they're investing money into, because more than likely you will be a part of that. So do your research, build that commercial knowledge, and that tags along to knowing your firm as well. Understand that firm, understand again the values that the firm has, what emphasis do they put onto their employees. So important to tailor your application. I think that's been a running theme going through this webinar, and I can't stress how important tailoring your application is, because if you use the same CV and you apply for 10 different jobs, more than likely you will get shortlisted to some of those. But tailoring your CV to every single job of them 10 roles will increase your chances of getting selected to more opportunities. So it's so important to tailor your application form. And of course, when you see an opportunity, try to apply nice and early. Don't leave it to the last deadline date. I noticed firsthand from speaking to recruiters and the HR managers that once certain companies reach their quota in terms of who they want, they will close the opportunity. There's a lot of opportunities that are on a rolling basis as well, which just haven't been filled for a long time. And if they find the right person, again, they'll close that opportunity. So try not to leave it to the last minute. Try to apply for these opportunities as quick as you can. Bear in mind, you make the effort to make your application and see the best version that you can make it. So this is the last slide, and we're going to go into a little bit of a demo. So a lot of companies and organizations, they use something called what they call ATS. It's called applicant tracking systems. And more than likely, if you've applied for quite a few roles, you've probably come across the type of ATS without knowing it. I think the data on this is around 66% of companies use a form of applicant tracking systems. And this is increasing all the time. And I think the number increases when you think about the top 500 companies in the UK or across, where about 99% use a form of ATS. And what ATS really is, it's there to scan applications, and it scans applications based on keywords, related qualifications, skills, experiences, and job descriptions that the organization or recruitment managers embed within the system. And if you think about it, it's a really powerful tool for companies to have. They're getting hundreds, sometimes thousands of applications. It's virtually impossible for humans, unless you've got a large team, to really sift through every single CV and application that comes through to find out if they're going to be shortlisted or not. So they need some sort of automated system there in place. And with the growing thing with AI, I only see this increasing, where AI is going to be picking up keywords based on the job description and shortlisting individuals. But this is actually happening now. This exists. And I think just you've probably all experienced. So if you ever apply for a role and you've got a unsuccessful email or communication, and you wonder, well, this is a bit of a strange time for somebody to send this. Maybe it might come on a Saturday or Sunday or in the evening or middle of the night. And you're probably thinking, well, why did I get rejected at this time? It's probably because the ATS is sifting through this and it's done it automatically without a human even having a look at it. So it's so important that you are aware of what ATS is, and many organizations and companies use this. So what can you actually do to overcome ATS? Well, there are tools in place. There is also additional kind of learning and understanding of what ATS really picks up on. And that will really help you to build a great understanding. Now, I don't have any slides created specifically for kind of overcoming ATS, but what we do have for our BARBRI students, and I'm going to open this up to Irina and her network. So if anyone does want access, you can drop us an email. I'll give you another slide at the end to give a bit more comms around that. But what we do have in BARBRI is, as part of our careers e-learning platform, we have something called CV360, which does a 58 or 59 point check around your CV to identify the common pitfalls when it comes to CVs going through the applicant tracking software. Now, I'm going to try to demo this now, so bear with me. I hope this works. Okay. I'm hoping this is still sharing my screen to screen too. If not, do give me a shout because it should be displaying now. But this is our platform. This is we call it BARBRI SQE Career Hub, and this is our e-learning platform. And we've got lots of different supports and tools and advice over here. But what I'm happy to open up is this particular tool, which is called CV360. And this allows any candidate to simply just drag and drop their CV onto it. And as you can see, it does a 59-point check, and it tells you how many points that you have passed on and how many points that you have failed on. And then it gives me a percentage. And obviously, this is the example CV. It gives me 83%. Now, this is always different to different organizations using an ATS, because their benchmarking could be completely different. Their benchmarking could be 70%, could be 90%. What you want to do is make sure that this is as high as possible. Now, this doesn't take into account specific information that you're putting in terms of what companies you work for, the particular grade you've got. That's what a human goes and looks for. What this is doing is checking a few other things. And if I just give you a sense and a feel of what this goes through, so if we go to view feedback, I won't go into too much detail, but I think it's really good to get a bit of understanding of what some of the common ATS systems do look for. From very small things in terms of the file name. So the mock-up example name for this particular CV is Alexandra Parker, but I've called it legal CV example. Now this has flagged up that there is something wrong with this. It should really be templated to something a bit more like Alexandra Parker _ CV. The size is absolutely fine. It doesn't like anything over 1 megabyte, and that's because certain systems won't be able to use it. So it always picks up on things like that. When you go through presentation, again, it looks at the word count and the balance of the word count. How much page 1 has and how much page 2 has. Of course, some of these you might not be too concerned about, and you can just kind of just basically ignore it, so you can dismiss it. That's probably something that you might consider do to certain things. But the real important ones, we all start with that. You've got to think, well, hang on a minute, maybe I need to change this. So it could be to do with anything to do with section layout, making sure all your name, phone number, email address is all correct. They can pick up this points of information so it can then forward it on to its next sort of system. Make sure that everything fits there. Education date, so obviously there's no education date when here. Again, that can be a red flag. And something might be nice if you are applying for a role which requires you to be graduated very recently, then obviously that will play a good part. So these are a lot of things. Like I said, it's not getting a sense of what exactly you've put into your CV. It doesn't do that. That's not the purpose it serves. It's really serving the purpose to really understand how you can get past the AI part of it, the tracking system. And this is a nice little thing as well. It does go through things like spelling, personal descriptors. So it looks like you haven't used many adjectives that match those in the personal descriptor list. So it's giving me a suggestion that I should be using more. And what this is so helpful with, for certain things like personal descriptors, I can click onto here and it will give me a list of personal descriptors to help me fill in the gaps. So things here like words for intelligence, knowledgeable, intelligent, motivated, committed, confident. So it gives you a little helping hand just to give you a little bit more sense of what the right words or the possible words you can use. Checks your grammar, checks spelling, and so on. So it's a really neat tool, a really good tool. I'm just going to flip back to the slides. Yeah, so it's a really neat tool, really good tool. So I'm more than happy to open this up if anyone is interested in putting a CV through and using the CV360 tool. Please do let me know. Email us at sqecareers@barbri.com and just request access to CV360. these slides, this information, I'll share with Irina, and I'm sure she's going to share with everyone here. And just mention you're from the UBLN network, and I'll be more than happy to give you access to CV360. Again, it's just that added support and help to really kind of give you the best opportunity, the best chance of getting shortlisted. So I hope that's been really useful. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm more than happy to answer any questions that might come through. Alternatively, if you've got any questions and you want to kind of drop them down on the email, I'm sure Irina's more than happy to kind of send them across to me, and I could give you short answers for that as well. So I'm easy. So is there any questions at the moment?
Sandip, yes, I have a lot of questions, but I also want to remind our guests that they are free to ask, to put their questions. Currently, you're all on mute, but please, you can whether unmute yourself or just raise the hand, and I'm going to unmute you. So if it is possible, I'm going to start with the list of my questions. Tell me, please, thanks so much for this presentation, first of all, and for presenting the CV 360. Can you please tell me whether it costs something to get the access to this program? And if it does, are there any discounts for Ukrainians?
So this particular one, and I'm sure there's going to be other products. I don't know anymore to give a referral suggestion, but there must be other programs that does the similar sort of thing. So goes through ATS and same what CV360 does. Our CV360 is part of a wider product, which is called Career Hub. And Career Hub has things like interview simulator and lots of different other tools there, but it also allows us to put our own information and content there as well. And that has a much larger cost because we're purchasing something overall. But for CV360, I don't know if you can. Maybe you can. I can give you off the back of this, Irina. I can give you the name of the company, which is Abintegra. You can contact them directly and see if you can get a standalone just that product. I don't know if they do that, but there would be a cost. But for the purposes of your network, I'm more than happy to offer this absolutely free of charge, just for you guys to use this, because I know we've got a great relationship. So I want to make sure that we do whatever we can to offer this product to you guys. So I can open up a separate theme page. I just need name and email address to register them onto the system, and they can use it as much as they like.
Thank you so much for this. So in fact, it started from my last question. So I'm now back to my first questions. Can you please tell me this thing? In Ukraine, when you draft a CV, it's kind of must to place your photo. So it was something new, for example, for me, because in the UK, it's a bad tone, and it's more like unacceptable if you put your photo into the CV. So the question, should we put our photo or should we not put our photo?
In short, I know I'm very familiar with a lot of European countries and Asian countries, and growing in USA, people, it's a very norm to put a photo on your CV. In short, in UK, no. We don't put CVs as photos on CVs at the moment. That trend hasn't come. I remember seeing the first few photos many years ago, and all we used to say was, well, we might change the trend. We might change the trend, and it might become a lot more popular, but it hasn't. And I think so. Avoid putting your direct image onto your CV. Instead, use your LinkedIn profile. That's the way around. If an employer needs to kind of see you as an individual, to get a feel for kind of who you are, to paint a picture, then use your LinkedIn profile. It's a much more professional way of doing it in terms of the UK market, and it serves the same purpose. So use that instead. But a picture on the CV at the moment in the UK, we just haven't caught up with that trend yet.
So references. You said at the beginning this is optional. So, but I do understand that it's better to have these references that because it increases your chances. At what point should we attach those references? So should it be at the beginning, or should we just mention that if you would like to have the references, I'm very happy to provide them, or how it should go?
Yeah. So typical thing you put down is references upon request, and that goes right at the end of your CV. But speaking to lots of different hiring managers, they go, well, if you're using that one line to write references upon request, and you're not really providing a reference, do you really need to say that it's reference upon request? Because they'll ask you for a reference. So that's optional. I find it a good practice just putting reference upon request, just nice there at the end. At the same time, if you have particular references, again, this is one of those things where you can speak to 10 different HR or careers practitioners, and you're going to get 10 different answers to this. If you have some references which hold some weight in terms of they are very well known within the legal industry, they work for top commercial legal practices, then you might decide, you know what, let me drop in a little bit of weight, let me put in the name there. Possibly, it might support and might help you unlock a few doors, unlock some curiosity from employers. But apart from that, there is no need to just put somebody who's not as well established onto your CV, because what you're doing is you're taking valuable space where you could be talking about yourself, your experiences, and everything that you've achieved. So the balanced answer to this will be just to keep it to references upon request. I think that'll be the safe option to use.
My next question. There are some, like talks that every time you apply to a new job, you have to change the CV, and your CV should correspond to that job or to that company that is hiring the professional. So is it true? So is it every time that I'm applying to the new job, I have to modify my CV in some way? Because in fact, my skills are not modified. I mean, I have my skills. This is my luggage with me, right? Or something should be modified with the description letter that I'm sending, that I'm attaching to the CV, and CV should be untouched. What's the best way?
That's a great question. I mean, it's one of those things where the recommendation is tweak your CV to every job that you apply for. Tweak it. It doesn't mean you have to completely revamp the whole CV and reword everything that you're writing for. But it will increase your chances if you do make small tweaks to just highlight what they are saying. Because, and this is all about how, and we touched upon it, about how a recruiter is interpreting that information, how they understand the information that you put into. You've probably spoke about everything related to that job description, but you've probably not said it in the way that they understand it. So sometimes you need to understand their terminology and then use it very specifically to that. So tweak it. Don't need to revamp everything, but try to find some key points of what the importance is from their perspective, and then put it in and around your CV and just tweak certain things in and around your CV. I would say if you've got a good, strong CV that you've done very recently, to really tweak little bits and bobs, maybe something on your personal profile, maybe relook and revise your duty and responsibilities for your most recent roles, probably will take about half an hour, 45 minutes, all in all. And it's really valuable to do. It gives you that little bit extra chance of getting shortlisted.
Thanks. Well, I've noticed that now it's very popular to place your video CV at LinkedIn, right? So this is a short video of a person who is looking for a job and who is trying in a short video to put some key points about himself. So can you please give those tips on these key points that should be mentioned in this video? Because obviously it shouldn't be long, so that the recruiters would definitely like this video and would not treat it as a boring one.
Great question again, and you're so right, because there is a massive increase in all this kind of video, online videos, and there are certain platforms and there's certain organizations which get you to do video interviews, where you have to just pre-record a video interview and it gets submitted, and then somebody who's going to review them will review all these. In terms of kind of LinkedIn, and it's such a difficult one, because they're looking for lots of different things, but the most important thing they're really looking for is you yourself, how you come across, how you speak, your eye contact, just the way you are in terms of being relaxed, humorous, I don't know, having a great personality. It's a chance for them to really see you. And we talk about first impressions last. It's so true, because that is, in a sense, a first impression. It's like walking to the door in an interview, and they know exactly, by looking at you, by hearing you for the first time, whether in a 60, 70%, if they do want you as a person, if you are the right fit. And a video CV serves a very similar purpose. It gives the employer a chance to really see you in the kind of flesh, and see how you are, see how you interact, see how you communicate. Then the second part is what information you portray, what you talk about. And there is no right or wrong answer, but I would say try to Google something which is called an elevator pitch. And what an elevator pitch is, it's an American term, and the concept of an elevator pitch is, if you go into an elevator and you happen to bump into a senior director of a firm, and you're in this elevator stuck with him, and he asks you, well, tell me about yourself. What do you do here? That's your opportunity to really impress. You've got maybe 60, 70, 80, 90 seconds from top of the bottom floor going all the way up to showcase yourself, introduce yourself, tell them who you are, tell them what you've done, your key experiences, your key USBs, what you can bring to a company. Make an elevator pitch for yourself. And creating an elevator pitch is so effective, not only for when you're introducing yourself to a recruiter, employer, or person that you're meeting for networking or professional event, but it's so important for you to use in an interview process as well. The first starting question where the employer really wants to get to know you and find out a bit more about yourself. So try to refine an elevator pitch, and an elevator pitch will serve a good purpose when you're doing something very similar to a video interview, I think.
So my last question. This Ukraine British Lawyers Network is organized for Ukrainian lawyers, and mostly people who connected today and who will review this, watch this video, because it's on record, those are Ukrainian lawyers. Again, majority are professionals already, not juniors. So for the juniors, I'm back to the beginning when you said that in the CV you have to highlight what you really want, what are your goals, what you want. So for junior, it's easier to say I want something, because he still have all his professional life in front of him. For more mature lawyers, especially those who have relocated to another country, unfortunately, because of the war in Ukraine, it's a bit more difficult, because they already have some knowledge of, not some, but a lot of knowledge in their baggage. But they simply want to have work.
Yeah.
They simply want to have any legal work that where they can have salary, and where they can pay bills, their bills. So what they want job. Can you please again give some tips? What is the better way to proceed in this case? What is the best way to make your CV to make your goals, except that I want a job. How it's better to make it more attractive for the recruiter?
Yeah, and again, a really interesting question. So the CV, as we talk about, will serve that part. When you come to very specifically in terms of kind of you come with a wealth of experience, and your priorities at the moment is really, not nitpicking too much, but you're focused on working, obviously utilizing the experience that you've come from your background, where you work from, and you want to transition it into the UK market, for example. That's when another piece of document comes hand in hand, which a lot of recruiters look for. So we spoke about the little personal profile on top of the CV, which is just a one paragraph, maybe 200 words used for that. And that's very much an overview of kind of who you are, what you're looking for, a bit about yourself. It doesn't give you much more than kind of that. But you have what's called a cover letter or personal statement, document of personal statement or cover letter, which majority of companies, organizations, law firms will request and ask for. Majority will. That document is really crucial because, again, whereas CV provides a little bit of insight, kind of what you're looking for, the personal statement or cover letter really goes into it on that particular role. And 2-3 paragraphs, you'll probably have to talk about how you fit the role, your fit, why you're the right person for that particular role. And you base it upon the job description, person specification that's listed on the job spec. But there'll be 1-2 paragraphs at the start where you introduce yourself. It's an extended version of the personal profile that you see on your CV. And that's where you really need to kind of, in a very smart way, professional way, highlight who you are, what you bring, kind of situation. And again, focus on all that wealth of knowledge and experience that you have been through, you have got from working in the years and years that you've been working, and how you can bring value to your next sort of role, whether it's in the UK or anywhere else. So a personal statement is an important document, which I think, again, it will serve that purpose to really do it. But my short tips are, again, self-reflection, highlight what your USPs are. And obviously, from when you're Ukrainian, there's so much USP that you could bring in, having the resilience, being able to adapt, being flexible, and then put it towards much more kind of work professional based. So talk about all this in a professional manner, highlighting the key overarching benefits that you can. CV is good. Personal profile, a personal statement will serve that purpose as well.
Thank you. Okay, dear guests, do you have any questions to Sandip? I think I took all the questions.
That's okay. If anyone, obviously watching afterwards, does think of anything, I'm sure, Irene, you're happy for them to just connect with you, connect with myself on LinkedIn if you wish to, or just feed them questions through to yourself, and then just feed it to me afterwards.
Yes, well, thank you so much for joining this session, Sandip. Thank you so much for this, for your presentation. It really was interesting and useful. I do remind that this session was recorded, and I will place it at our UBLN YouTube channel that you will have access to it. I will also put the records into the post at UBLN LinkedIn page, so where we advertise this session. And I do invite you to our next session. That will be this Thursday on the 24th of August. We will talk about interviewing what recruiters want, but this time we're going to interview the recruiters because we have 2 recruiters, one from in-house, another one from recruiting agency, and we will ask them questions, what they really want and how we can get the job while going through their interviews. So thank you so much for this session. I will also try to create some emails and send this information that Sandip today shared with us, and also the link to this webinar. And again, I'm waiting you at our next sessions. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.